I'm Ria.
I'm Juan Pablo.
And I'm Gabby.
And we're
Teens Tutor Teens.
Hey guys, I'm Gabby, and today we're going to learn about inverse functions. So what are inverse functions? So we all know what kind of a function is. It looks like sometimes it can be f of x, or g of x, or even sometimes it can be h of x. But, and could put here, these are just functions. But inverse functions are actually a bit different. They have this distinctive characteristics. They have like a -1 right here to define them as inverse functions. Now what inverse functions do in this case, inverse functions are, well, basically the inverse of the original function. That means they act inversely to the other function, and we're going to get in a moment here about some examples and do some problems on how you can find inverse functions. So, an important thing to note is that when you're doing the inverse of the original function, the answer will always be whatever the variable you were solving for. So it'd be, this case, x. Now if we were to have that as instead inverse of f of y, that would be, in this case, a little bit different. It'd be y. So it's always in the case of the variable you were just trying to solve for. So let's keep that in mind when we're doing these problems. Okay, let's start with an easy one. Let's say we have a function of f of x equals x plus 1. What is inverse of f of x? What is that? So the first thing I would do is I would definitely call f of x equal to y. So now I would just say y equals x plus 1. Now you want to swap these two. You want to take y for x and change x into y. So then you want to do x equals y plus 1. This kind of establishes the inverse when we solve for our new y. So now we're solving for this y. And then we just do x minus 1 equals y after taking -1 from both sides. This is our inverse function. Now we're going to test this. And before I actually test this, I actually like to, sometimes if you want to, you can call the new y f inverse of x. So you finally came up with f inverse of x equals x minus 1. But now that we know these two, let's test something here for a second. Let's test something. If we know that f of x equals x plus 1 and f inverse of 1 inverse of x, equals x minus 1, when we do we can do either way. By using doing f of inverse of f of x, what does that equal? So basically what we're doing is we're taking this function and we're taking this function from f of x, which is x plus 1, and plugging in right here. So what I usually do to prevent myself from making mistakes, this is kind of a composition function. And what you do is you just basically plug that in here for this. So it'd be, in this case, it'd be f of x minus 1 from this equation that was brought down here. And then you're just left with x plus 1 minus 1, which equals x. That proves that it is indeed an inverse function. So let's do an example, and since you already already have the proof down, let's just do an example just for free showing. So let's try f of x equals 3x minus 2. Pause the video if you want to try to solve this, but I'll solve this right now. So like I said, we're going to go back to our steps and we're going to change this f of x into y equals 3x minus 2. Next, we're going to switch these things out for each other, switch them out. And then next, we're left with x equals 3y minus 2. Now what to do is just add 2 on both sides. X plus 2 equals 3y. And divide both sides by 3, which will give you a final answer of x plus 2 over 3 equals y. And now usually, like I said, I usually like to switch it around here and recall that since it's the new y, the inverse of f of x. So that means we can come to the conclusion that the inverse of f of x equals x plus 2 over 3. This is a new answer that makes us happy. Let's do another one. Yeah. So, next problem. Let's do one that's a little bit weird. This one's a little bit weird. F of x, okay, equals 4x over 5 minus x. So, take a minute and pause if you want to try to figure this out yourself. But we'll just start doing it right now. I mean, I will, but you'll do along with me. I know that for sure. So, we're going to change this f of x into a y, because just to make the terms all nice and equal so I don't have to keep writing f of x. Then we're going to do our swap like we did. Remember, we swapped these things for each other. So then that becomes x equals 4y over 5 minus y. Now, here's the weird thing. We have to multiply both sides by 5 minus y. So we can get rid of that in the denominator. So this gets canceled away, and now we are just left with 5 minus y, x equals 4y. Now we can distribute this out. So use distributive property that you learned sometime in your math career, equals 4y. Remember, we want this y to be isolated from that. So it'd be smart to take this 5x and isolate that and leave all the y's onto one side. Then you want to factor out from this equation a y. You want 5x equals y of 4 plus x. Y of 4x, y quantity of 4 plus x. And then you just want to divide both sides for 4 plus x, giving you a new total of 5x over 4 plus x, y, which their form force equals inverse. It's a long process, I'm not going to lie, but we're almost done. So we're going to do one more problem, and it's going to be even a weirder function, but now we're going to call it h of x equals 1 plus 2x over 7 plus x. Now we're going to call this hy, so y equals 1 plus 2x over 7 plus x. Change, the y's for the x's and x's for the y's. So we're going to do x equals 1 plus 2y over 7 plus y. Multiply both sides by 7 plus y, 7 plus y. Cross this out because, it cancels out. And we're going to distribute this out at the same time, so less steps, for more math, equals plus 2y. And then I want to subtract both sides by 1. And I want to add, well, actually, let's do that later, actually. Don't want to go too fast. We'd have 7x plus yx minus 1 equals 2y. Then I'm going to subtract yx from both sides. And we're going to have 7x minus 1 equals 2y minus yx. Take out a y. Yes, we're going to take out a y. Now give us 2 minus x equals 7x minus 1. Finally, for the last thing, we're going to divide both sides by 2 minus x. This should now give you the final answer. I actually want to keep this color. It looks kind of cool. 2 minus x equals y, which also equals h inverse of x. It's a common mistake, actually. A lot of students will actually see f of x and put f inverse of x, but it's actually h of x. To put the inverse of h of x right here. So thank you. That's all the time we have for today, and I hope you learned something about inverse functions.